I think that this is an example of just cherry picking ideas and making things that sound common sense. But you're dealing with all products as though they're all widgets, and they're not. Some products are limited. If a company like Standard Oil gets a monopoly in certain railway lines, and they don't need 100% over the whole world, but if they have a monopoly on how some oil well can get oil to market, then they can use this as leverage, and you didn't deal with leverage where the consumers choose one product willingly and are foisted on with products that are just good enough, and they're like, well, why bother? Okay, and that does happen. And you want to know an example? What about George Hearst taking over all the gold in the Black Hills? He used all kinds of crazy means to do that. And some you'd say, oh, well, that wasn't good, but look, it was the government's fault. The fact is, it happens. These capitalists do have interest in finding the choke points and finding resources that can't be parallelized and extending that, what you call that small window. In fact, it is possible to have monopolies. They are damaging. People have choke points in the economy, and you want to say, oh well, government monopolies are bad. Yeah, monopolies are bad in general. You want to presume that people that believe that corporations have to be regulated are all some kind of in some big cabal of communists, all with wanting 100% control. No, I don't want centralized control. I want distributed control put in the hands of people, yes, via market mechanisms. The idea that it could be unregulated and achieve that, and you say, oh, you've never found the case of that. Well, there are cases of that. There are plenty of cases of that. And yes, there's usually some sort of government involvement because really wealthy people run the fucking government. But yeah, you just choose. You're not dealing with the fact of one, limited resources. So I could buy all the water rights in a county, and people need water for everything else they do. Or I can buy all the railroad lines between you and your buyers, and I can therefore charge you rates not based on the giving you a service, but based on the fact that I'm competing with you to sell the product you're trying to sell and own the means that you have to get your good to market. You just don't pay attention to these, and you rely on these common sense kind of feel good sort of intuitionalism. The fact is, the system is complicated. It can't all work one way, it can't all work another. You need to balance it. Sometimes there's monopolies that are too big of a choke point, that are too damaging in their industry, and other times there's monopolies that don't really matter. Okay? But you want to just sweep them all into one bin or another and deal with it as though all products, all resources are the same. And it's generally like they're all widgets, so there's other ways to get it. And it comes out in your what if somebody had a monopoly on all motor vehicles, on the internal combustion engine? Well, you could just move closer. Really, that's gonna satisfy all the things we get from having cheap energy to move goods from one place to another, is people just moving close to what they need. Okay, well, what about if the roads are privatized? What about, you just say in principle it can't happen, but it looks to us like it does happen. A lot of these laws are reaction to it happening. And yeah, it's happening in a complex environment where the government is involved as well. And you use that as smoke rather than trying to clear the smoke and figure out what we can really do to have a healthy economy. So I think that it's mostly just wishful thinking and cherry picking, as well as ideas that are palatable for reasons besides their actual factual validity.